So there's this retirement account called a solo 401k, and it can be a really, really great option for a lot of small businesses out there. But there are some very important things you need to know about this account before you actually decide to use one. So in this video, I'll be going over exactly what a solo 401k is, the biggest mistakes that new entrepreneurs run into when they are thinking about a solo 401k, and then what you absolutely must know before you decide to use one of these accounts yourself. Now, before we dive in, keep in mind this is not financial advice. I am just a dude on the internet with a finance degree and too much time on his hands that likes to obsess over nuanced finance topics. But I do have a solo 401k myself, and I've had one for a couple of years now. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. Now, starting things off, what is a solo 401k? Well, I have entire videos about this, so I'm not going to spend too much time here, but it's essentially one of the most popular retirement accounts for self-employed people. And by using this account correctly, you can save up to $61,000 in the year of 2022 towards your retirement, and an additional $6,500 if you're over the age of 50. So a lot of potential here, and you also get to choose the tax treatment of this money. So unlike some other types of retirement accounts where it's either has to be pre-tax or it has to be Roth, you can choose between the two. So you can either choose it to be pre-tax money, take the tax deduction today, and then pay taxes on the funds in retirement, or you could do the opposite and choose to treat the funds as Roth funds where you pay the taxes now, but then it's tax-free in retirement. Now, if you choose to go down the Roth route, it's probably going to make the most sense to use a mega backdoor Roth IRA. It's a bit of a mouthful. That's what I personally do with my solo 401k. I've got plenty of videos on that as well, one of which you can find right up here. So big picture, retirement account for self-employed people allows you to save over $60,000 per year towards retirement on whatever tax basis you would like. Now, let's get into the big mistakes that a lot of folks make when setting this kind of account up. The first mistake we're looking at is thinking that you're not eligible for this kind of retirement account. So a solo 401k sounds pretty fancy. I was pretty intimidated the first time that I heard about this kind of account when I was sitting in one of my lectures in college. But after doing a little bit of research, found out that more people than I thought are actually eligible for this kind of account, and it's not actually that difficult to set one up. So here's the main criteria that you need to meet in order to be able to use this kind of account in the first place. Well, as the name would suggest, solo 401ks are for one-person companies. That's why it's called a solo 401k and not a 401k. But many people think that they don't actually qualify for being a one-person company when they really do. For example, if your spouse works for you full-time, you are a one-person company. If you have only 1099 contractors and no W-2 employees, you are a one-person company. But if you have a W-2 employee other than your spouse, you are not a one-person company and you are not going to be eligible for a solo 401k. Instead, you'll need to opt for a normal 401k or a different type of retirement account. But if you met that hurdle, the next mistake is thinking that a solo 401k is either too expensive or too much of a hassle to set up. Because when most people hear 401k, they think expensive and they think complicated. But the reality is they're not very expensive, in some cases free, and someone who looks like this could set one up themselves very, very easily. Which actually ties us into mistake number 3, which is setting up a free solo 401k. Now, I know I just said that you can set up a solo 401k for free in some cases, but the free ones usually aren't actually what you want. Now, the reason for this is that 401ks are very flexible plans that you essentially get to set the rules for when you draft your plan documents. And free plans are going to lack most, if not all, of the most beneficial rules and provisions that you can draft into your solo 401k. What this means is that it's going to be much more difficult for you to put that full $61,000 amount into one of these free solo 401ks, and you're not going to be able to run the mega backdoor Roth IRA out of one of these things either. But that being said, that doesn't mean it's going to cost thousands of dollars for you to set this thing up. There are actually a lot of companies out there that have kind of like done for you solutions where you just pay them some money and then they set this thing up for you. They automate it, they do all the paperwork, all the filing, and it's completely out of your hands. And that's personally what I've chosen to do with my solo 401k. The company that I use is actually the most affordable way to run this thing. I did hours and hours of research figuring out which company was going to be the best because I did not want to switch down the line. And the one that I landed on, I found to be the most affordable with all of the best provisions, including the ability to run a mega backdoor Roth IRA, which is one of the most important factors for me. I pay about $500 a year for this plan. And if you want to support the channel, I'll leave a link in the top of the description below if you want to sign up with these guys yourself. But before you do that, I want to tell you what you absolutely must know before you decide to set up a solo 401k. Now, if you couldn't already tell, I am a big fan of the solo 401k. This account over the last couple of years has allowed me to stash away over $2 million in tax-free retirement money, assuming around an 8% return over the next 40 or so years. And that's all just from money that I put in over the last 2 years. But That being said, this plan is not for everyone. If you're looking to save less than, I would say, about $20,000 per year towards your retirement, I would probably look towards a SEP IRA. This is the kind of retirement account that I used my first year being self-employed, and it's a lot simpler, it's free, and you really don't have to go through too much hassle at all to set one of these things up. It's basically the exact same as just setting up like a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA, except you also have to give a little bit of your business information. But other than that, very, very similar process. Now, outside of just the hassle of setting one up, there's a lot of other big differences between the SEP IRA and the solo 401k, and I have a whole video on that right up here. But just know that with the SEP IRA, you can only put in pre-tax money, and you can't choose to put in Roth dollars, so that could be a drawback for some. But with solo 401ks, I mean, the level of flexibility that you get does make it really ideal for kind of small to mid-sized solopreneurs. And one aspect of that flexibility is accounts being self-directed. And so my solo 401k is self-directed, which means that I essentially have checkbook control over my solo 401k. I can invest it in whatever I want, whether it's stocks or cryptos or real estate or startups. I mean, anything that I could write a check to, I can basically invest my solo 401k into these assets. But a lot of this stuff can honestly be overkill if you're just getting started. The big picture is even if you only set up one of these accounts for a couple of years, the ROI on that can be absolutely incredible, especially if you are young. Like just maxing this thing out for a couple of years can honestly get you completely set for retirement at a very young age. Now, feel free to comment below if you have any questions about the solo 401k, and at the top of the description, I'll also have a link to the provider that I personally use if you do want to support the channel in a small way. Best of luck out there, and I'll see you in the next video.